Welcome to Real Talk. This is the first of my two-part interview with Frankie Grande, celebrity and influencer. He'll be talking about his home life, Broadway, his family's tragedy in Manchester, and finally, when he realized he was gay. Hi, Frankie.
Hi!
Here with my very good friend, Frankie Grande.
Hi, my darling.
And I'm really happy to be doing this interview with you now. A significant event happened in your life very recently, which was you turned 1 year sober.
Yay!
Which was spectacular.
I'm
and
a baby.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Like 1 year sober is a big deal.
Yeah.
You were born in New York?
Yeah.
Yes.
Born in New York, New York.
Your father is Dr. Victor Marchione?
Yes.
I'm pretty good with the name.
Marchione.
Your mother, Joan?
Yes.
And your mother was the CEO at a phone and alarm company?
Yeah, she's the CEO of 3 companies that manufacture sound power communications for the Navy, Coast Guard, and cruise ships.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool company.
But not entertainment folk?
No, not entertainment folk. Just kind of like the enjoyment of entertainment. You know, like I was raised going to 3 Broadway shows a week, you know, because my mom was like, let's go to a Broadway show tonight. Let's go to a Broadway show tonight.
And that was the greatest education for you that ever could have been.
Ever. Yeah. So, like, I had seen Phantom of the Opera 10 times before I was 10.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, it was, like, great. So, so, like, basically they weren't performers themselves, my mom, my grandparents, my aunt, but they loved it. So it was just kind of part of the daily routine. Madonna, lots of Madonna concerts. I went to my first Madonna concert when I was 7 years old. Went to the Blonde Ambition tour. And it was obviously life-changing. Yeah.
We had the Schubert Theater, so I remember seeing Annie at the Schubert Theater and West Side Story at the Schubert Theater, and I mean, it was, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
You know?
And just like knowing you can express yourself in those kind of amazing ways.
Yeah.
Like being given permission from an early time on in life to go down that road was kind of cool for me.
And your parents were very
supportive of that. Yeah. 100%. You know, the nice thing about it is, like, I was always so in love with academia, like that it was never a question of like, I'm going to give up academics in order to pursue theater or, you know, singing or dancing or acting. It was always extracurricular for me. So like my parents never were given the option to be like, we don't approve of that. Because it was like, I was like, here are all my straight A schedule. Yeah. As we will get into, you know, my alcoholic mind, like it first manifested as an achievement-aholic. Yes. I was an achievement-aholic my entire life. So I was like, here are the 15 A's that I just got this semester, and I also would like to do 16 shows in the afternoon after school, and I just never went home. 10 years old, I moved to Boca. Yeah. And then I started at Pinecrest, which was it's a pretty much a magnet school to send you to Ivy League schools. But we had a beautiful arts department, like because it was a very affluent school, and people love to support the arts in those kind of environments. So we had beautiful programs, which was great. And then I chose a college specifically based on the fact that I wanted to triple major in biology, theater, and dance. I was giving myself a year after college to get on Broadway, and then I did. So then I was like, bye.
What was your first show on Broadway?
Mamma Mia.
Amazing.
So much fun.
I'm always fascinated by the auditioning process for Broadway.
I also love telling this story, so I'm glad you asked, because it's important for people to understand, like, I did not just fluke into Mamma Mia. I auditioned 3 times, and it went to Equity Chorus Call. So the first time, I didn't get kept at all. The second time, I got kept, but I was non-equity. And then I ended up getting my equity card doing Dora the Explorer Live. I was Boots the Monkey. And then I went to that final Equity Chorus Call, and I had already booked High School Musical. I was going to go on tour with High School Musical, the Equity company. And so I went into the Mamma Mia audition kind of like with 0 fucks to give.
Yeah.
Like, I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So I went in, I already knew the choreography because this is my third time auditioned. Had a blast. They kept me. They kept me again. They kept me again. And it was me and my best friend Neil Haskell, who I love to say because he and I met in that audition and have been best friends ever since.
That's amazing.
And he was just the two of us for one slot, and I got it. I got the call, and they were like, "You got Mamma Mia," and I was like, "Where?" Because there was a company in Vegas, there was a national tour, there was Broadway. I was like, "I'm sure I'm not going," and they were like, "Broadway," and I was like, "Shut up!" But it was a lot of luck means preparation, right? Like, there was one spot. There were hundreds of guys that started for that one spot, and I whittled it down all the way to 2 people and then to 1. It was wild.
You talked about the obsessive mind and the alcoholic mind that you applied towards your craft
100%.
from the time you from what age?
5th grade was my first show.
I want to do Rehab the musical.
I would like to be in it.
How sick would that be?
Listen, like my treatment, my experiences in treatment.
Yeah.
Like, I sometimes would catch myself doing a character study.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, wow, you're fascinating. Like, your lives and your story are so fascinating. Like, why has no one done this? Educating, poking fun at, but also embracing, which I think is what you would have to do in order to do this. You'd be educating people as to what it is. You'd be poking fun at it because it's sometimes ridiculous, but you'd also be embracing the fact that this is something that was helpful to a group of people.
What was the Showtime Queer as Folk?
Oh, that's the only way I knew what homosexuality was growing up.
I love that show. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I didn't know what being gay was when I was growing up because there was nobody in Boca to really look up to. There was no one out. I didn't have YouTube. There was no social media. Like, I had dial-up modem. I had AOL group chats. That was not something that helped me figure out what being gay was. So you knew you were
different, but you didn't know what was going on.
I didn't know what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I watched Queer as Folk, and I was like, I'm that. I guess I have to move to Canada and be a drug addict. Or a lesbian mother.
Or Pittsburgh. Wasn't it in Pittsburgh, Queer as Folk?
Well, they shot it in Canada. Oh. But yes, yeah, exactly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I was the only 2 things I had were club kid or lesbian mom. So I was like, I have to be one of those 2 things, I guess. I just didn't know. It was all this brand new undiscovered country for me. Yeah, so it was weird. That was amazing. A very instrumental show growing up.
That's amazing that show was instrumental for you.
Instrumental, growing up. Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna go. It's 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, Mom. I have to go to bed. Studying, being like, I guess I'm that one. Maybe that one. I don't know.
Let's get back to Broadway. You did Rock of Ages.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You played Franz.
Yeah,
Franz.
The final Franz. Yeah,
the final
German
Franz.
boy. So that's Franz.
Okay. And I think it was interesting that you were considered Mr. Broadway of 2007 by America's Best Dance Crew.
No, okay. So you have so many different plot lines that are happening.
I do.
But it's fine. I'll talk you through that.
I love that.
So 2007, I won a Mr. Broadway beauty pageant. So I was the inaugural Mr. Broadway.
Okay.
And it was a great pageant benefiting the Alley 4A Center, which I'm still working with to this day, which is great. It provides shelter to homeless gay LGBT youths in New York. And then I was a judge on America's Best Dance Crew after Big Brother. So that was and after Franz. So 2015. I was a judge on America's Best Dance Crew.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't have to compete in that one. I just got to instruct
just be fabulous.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Others.
Yeah, exactly.
That must have been
Give
fun.
feedback.
For you, that must have been a lot of fun.
It was so good. I love helping other people grow. That's what that was for me.
And now a word from our sponsor.
If you or someone you love have any questions, feel free to call us at Klean Treatment Center.
Now we're back with Frankie Grande. Let's get into, I guess we can get into a little bit about your addiction and what that was like. Because I know now it's like, the amazing thing now is you get to be this person who, like you were sort of introduced to who you really were by watching Queer as Folk. Mm-hmm. But now you get to be a public sort of person in that regard, but you also get to be a recovering drug addict in that regard.
Mm-hmm. I was always an aholic. I just didn't know what that meant. Like, I was an achievement-aholic.
Okay.
Like, I had never touched a drink or a drug until I was 24 years old. Nothing. Because I was working so hard. So my brain, so basically I look at it like this way. Addiction is a dopamine deficiency in my brain. Like, I want more dopamine at all times, and I am born without the maximum amount that you can have as a person. Like, it's a genetic condition. I was born this way. So when, to me, in my mind. So, like, when I was growing up, the way that I would get that extra dopamine is by achieving A's, letters. Good job, Frankie. You're the best. Frankie, congratulations. You've won head of household. That's for your Big Brother fans. It's true. Why did I win every competition on Big Brother even when I didn't have to and probably ruin my game? Because I wanted validation. I wanted to hear Julie Chen say, you're the best. That's my whole life. I just want to be told I'm the best and I want to achieve all the things. So when
And you recognize that as the same dopamine rush.
100%.
Which is amazing.
The same dopamine rush.
Because it is.
Yep, you get that same kick. So once I got onto Broadway and I was in Mamma Mia for about a year, that started to go away. That dopamine rush, that achievement of being on Broadway goes away after being on Broadway, 8 times 52. I don't know what that is. I can't do math. But 8 times 52 times, then you're like, okay, well, now what do I do? So that kind of rush started going away. So I started seeking outside sources for that. I found that in a relationship. He became everything that I wanted to focus on. And then I found out some, we broke up. It was a terrible, terrible, bad, messy breakup. Cheating, he cheated on me, all the blah, blah, horrible things. And then I lost it. Like, that was when I was like, well, I got nothing left to do. And so, like, that's when I started to gravitate more towards drugs and alcohol. And even discovering them. I didn't even know what anything was. And then that just became, and it was manageable at first. It was like totally fine. And then as my career got bigger after Big Brother, all of the external pressures from being famous, about comments on Instagram, comments on YouTube, all these things, like all of a sudden I'm being told by a lot of people that I am like a faggot and should like kill myself and like go die and like I hate you and you're an evil person and all this stuff, because people have so many opinions, but when you open yourself up to it as a public figure, there's a lot of good out there. Like, I would say probably like 90% of the comments are good, but like you remember the bad ones.
Well, and as alcoholics, we focus on the bad ones.
100%. Like, as human beings, we are wired to remember things that injure us so that we don't repeat them again. Then as alcoholics, I feel like we are wired to only obsess over those things. So that's what started to happen. And then my life became very small. I started to shut myself off.
What did your addiction actually look like? What did your using actually look like? And the reason I ask this question is I am of the belief that as an alcoholic, I have to know that you use drugs like I did, right? And now you don't, for me to be impacted by that.
My disease would tell me that any feeling that came into me needed to immediately be masked by drugs or alcohol. I could not allow myself to sit in any moment of uncomfort, of fear, of anger, of uncertainty without a drink or a drug. And so I would use those tools. I had no tools in my toolbox in order to fix the way that I was feeling, in order to get out of a certain emotion. Like, I would just sit there and wallow in fear. Lots of fear. Like, now that I can look back on it, I know that I spent a lot of my life afraid of the future, afraid of the past. What did I do last night and what will I do tonight?
Yeah.
And those are the two things you have absolutely no control over. You have no control over the past, you have no control over the future, you only have control over the present, but I could not see that. And so I wanted to not be the person that could feel anything in the present. I didn't want to feel the present because I was too scared of the past and I was too scared of the future. So I would mask that. And it got to the point where I was, a terrible tragedy hit my family. And at that point, I was managing to be high functioning in my disease. But then at that point, like, everything fell apart and I had no ability to handle all of the horrible emotions that were going on. I wasn't able to be there for my family when I needed to be, and I fell apart, like completely fell apart, like crying on my bathroom floor, like not wanting to live anymore. Like dark place that I am grateful that I went there, because now being a sober person and having almost 14 months of recovery under my belt, I know I never want to go back to crying on that bathroom floor, wanting to die ever again.
So that was the end.
That was it.
And now a word from our sponsor. The first time I went to treatment in 1989, it was at a place called Hoag Hospital. It was a 28-day model and it was a hospital setting. From what you've told me, it's kind of going, you feel like the rehab industry is sort of going back to that.
So here's what's really funny about that. So one of the things that I've learned over the years is that, 30 days of treatment or 28 days of treatment, why? Right? Nobody ever asks why. Like, why is 30 days get me sober? 30 days? That seems weird. It's like a month, right? How could that possibly be? Well, the interesting thing is that has to do with federal law. So if you leave your job, you have 30 days to get back to that job before they can fire you. So the rule of 30 days to get sober wasn't created by clinicians or people that might have a solution to get people healthy. It was created by federal law to protect people with a disability from getting fired from their job. And I think until we look at that from a government regulatory standpoint about what really is the proper course of treatment, what does that look like? How does that integrate into people not losing valuable things in their lives, like work, and a job, and a family? I mean, the things that keep people sober, right? So, that's a big issue, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with. Unfortunately, the political tide with lobbying from the insurance companies is actually going the opposite direction, where they're trying to squash it into smaller and smaller amounts of days and then put it more and more outpatient. And yet the drugs are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and they're getting harder and harder to treat. So, and now the new push is just to go to harm reduction. Well, let's just give you some pills so you don't cause bloodborne illnesses, and you don't cause theft, and you don't cause me having to step over you on the street, right? And that's somehow going to be the solution until someday they decide to get sober. So I'm not saying that that's bad necessarily. I do believe that harm reduction has a good place in a continuum of care, but you can't do it at the expense of traditional medically based, scientifically based, outcome result oriented treatment. It's fully integrated with a medical model and a social model.
And now we're back for the conclusion of the first part of my interview with Frankie Grande.
I decided that I need to fix myself. And the only way that I knew how to do that was to ask for help. So I did, I asked for help. And then I listened. That's the crazy part, I about 5 years ago, I was trying it out. I was doing Sober Spring. I did Sober Spring, and then I did Sober Spring, and then I did Sober Fall.
I'm gonna just try to be sober for the spring.
Sober for the spring.
Sober for the fall.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I kind of knew about 5 years ago that other people were telling me that I should stop, that I should calm down, that maybe I had a problem. But so I was like, fine, I'm gonna show you. I'm wired to succeed at everything. So I'm like, great, I'm going to succeed at showing you that I'm okay. Watch me be sober for 90 days. Did it. Done. And then it was slowly introducing, a glass of wine here, this, until it was escalating to the point of where I was just sick again. You just get straight into that diseased mentality that I would still be in right now if I wasn't surrounded by support, if I didn't ask for help, if I didn't listen when people that had experience with drugs and alcohol and sobriety, if I didn't listen to them, I'd probably still be there right now, just crazy in the head.
Was it weird? Was it different being in treatment, being openly gay?
I mean, I'm not unopenly gay, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I wasn't like a
I don't.
thing.
I can only explain. I can only relate something to my own personal experience, and I only am an openly gay man.
Yeah.
Like I've never not been. Once I figured out I was gay, I was openly gay.
Yeah, there wasn't a.
And then that was it. The floodgates were open for always. So
mean-
I can't relate to anyone else, but I can just say, like, for people that are struggling with, their sexuality and addiction simultaneously, because I feel like addiction is often people that are uncomfortable with their sexuality or are not capable of being as free and open about it, like use drugs and alcohol to mask the feelings of shame, guilt, remorse over acting on some behaviors that they may have been told their whole life were wrong. Like if you've been raised to believe that being gay is wrong and then you discover that you're gay and you start acting on being gay, then there's shame and there's guilt also associated with that, and people use over those feelings. And I live here as an example to people, like, never be ashamed about being who you are. About who you are, never apologize for it. Live your truth. And if living your truth means that you're a gay man, go for it. Do it.
Yeah.
And like, I can't imagine that if you try to deny that of yourself, like it creates a sort of a void within you.
The interesting thing is, you talked about the tragedy with your family. Whatever I can imagine you were the one in your family that reacted to that tragedy with consuming more drugs and alcohol and ending up in that situation.
I mean, from my personal, that's what happened to me.
Yeah. Because we're addicts.
Because that's all I knew. I didn't have any sort of tools in place to get out of that hole of despair and confusion and why me, why now, like it was just a very isolating time for me. And that's the thing, like I was alone in a room full of people for years, like might have been the center of attention, might have been surrounded by all these amazing people, but like ultimately, like I was alone. I wasn't letting anybody in. I wasn't making like the genuine connections that I had been making my whole life. Like the good thing about the fact that this all happened to me pretty recently was that I didn't burn any bridges. I didn't lose anyone. I was able to reestablish and reconnect with everyone in my life, like my friends, my family. Like as soon as I got clean and sober, like everyone was there for me. Like I didn't have to go through the process of mourning people, of losing people, of making an entirely new set of friends. Like everybody was there for me once I was able to let them back into my life. That was the thing. Like I had, since I didn't even know what drugs or alcohol was until like mid to late 20s, like everything was just kind of waiting for me to rejoin the world.
Thank you so much for watching the first of 2 episodes with Frankie Grande. Please tune in to part 2 of my interview with Frankie Grande. Like us, share us. Thanks for watching.